Welcome, everybody. My name is Dave Hodge. I'm the president of Untitled Capital Corp, your host today for this Zoom meeting with Rockstone, Saville, and Commerce Resources. It's all about rare earths. They may not be that rare over the Earth's surface, but they're certainly rare in concentrations that would be economic. And we have some of the best represented here today. And that will start off with Rockstone Research, making some comments on the rare earth, niobium, tantalum markets, followed by a presentation by both Chris Grove of Commerce Resources and Mike Hodge of Saville Resources. Certainly, this is a very opportune time in the recoming of the rare earth niobium space coming into its own with the electrification of transportation. This is a huge opportunity for our two relatively advanced rare earth and niobium deposits. So to start things off, Stefan, if you would like to address the crowd, you might just welcome our German folks and then move right on into your presentation.
Okay, I will do so. Hello everybody, schönen guten Abend auch nach Deutschland und die deutschsprachigen Länder. Schön, dass Sie auch heute zugeschaltet haben. Yeah, great to be here. Let's get started. I'm gonna show you some of my website. So yeah, I hope you can see it. Last week I published a report on Saville Resources. And I also mentioned its neighbor Commerce Resources, and here's the website you can find on rockstoneresearch.com, and I also have a PDF version of this article, and yeah, everything is also available in German. And this article was about niobium and rare earth elements, building our future with super alloys, superconductors, and super magnets. And yeah, Saville and Commerce, they own exploration and development projects hosting these super metals, of which tantalum is actually another one. It's a superconductor and super alloy like niobium. And as you know, rare earths, they are known for super magnets, and Commerce has lots of it at its Ashram project. And I believe it's the second largest rare earths and fluorspar deposit in the world. And the biggest one is in China. And yeah, it's similar to Ashram actually. So in my report, I was mentioning Saville's impressive drill results where they drilled like 17 meters at 1% niobium. And besides these really high-grade niobium results, they also drilled significant tantalum and phosphate mineralization. And phosphate is a $2 billion market alone in the United States, and it's used in fertilizers and animal feed supplements. And as you could see in the last couple of weeks and months, inflation is picking up, especially for agricultural commodities. Fertilizers are also going up, ammonia. So in other parts of Saville's property, they also drilled high grades of fluorspar, which is needed in the steel and aluminum industry. So here you can see that Saville has niobium, tantalum, fluorspar, and phosphate in the ground, while Commerce, they have rare earths and fluorspar. And here's a chart from the European Commission from 2020. And this chart shows all the commodities which are facing a supply risk for key technologies. And you can see that the light rare earths and the heavy rare earths, they are the commodities with the highest supply risk. And that's because China dominates this market for 90% or so. Magnesium ranks as number 3, and then comes niobium on number 4, and ranking number 5 is phosphate. So you can see that Commerce and Saville, they are right on spot with their commodities. And in the midfield, You can see tantalum and fluorspar, they face moderate supply risk, but still they are at risk. And then in the report, I quoted a recent article on the US Congress passing a long-awaited infrastructure bill where they are now spending $1.2 trillion to modernize the infrastructure in the United States, such as $110 billion for roads, bridges, and other rehab infrastructure. And just now this week on Monday, President Biden, he signed this infrastructure bill, and yeah, it's a really big deal, and it's good for commodities and commodity prices like niobium and rare earths. And yeah, niobium is used a lot in strengthening steel as a super alloy because it makes the steel much stronger and at the same time also more flexible. And there is a bridge in France, which you can see here. It's the Millau Viaduct, where they added just 0.025% niobium to the steel. And by that, they reduced the total weight of the steel and the concrete needed by 60%. So niobium makes any infrastructure last longer, and it makes such buildings even safer, more energy efficient, and less expensive. And yeah, then the infrastructure bill, it also plans to spend another $7.5 billion for electric vehicles and charging infrastructure, plus another $5 billion for zero and low emission buses. So permanent magnets, they are used in electric vehicles, which are produced from neodymium and praseodymium. And those are heavy rare earth elements which commerce has in the ground. So, but electric vehicles, they also need niobium. And that's because 200 grams of niobium added to a mid-size car reduces its total weight by 100 kilo. And in the car industry, 100 kilo in weight reduction, that's really a big deal. And you can get that for just $9 or $10 of niobium. And as you know, electric vehicles, they are all about range, efficiency, and lightweight. So niobium is used a lot in producing those new electric vehicles. And then you can see that another $65 billion they are planning to spend on clean energy and renewables, such as wind power. And again, here come supermagnets into play because neodymium and praseodymium, they are both used a lot in wind turbines. And yeah, and then in the report, I compared the niobium producers worldwide, and there are only 3 mines globally which supply all of the niobium. And that's Niobec in Quebec, Canada. That's Catalao in Brazil, owned by China Molybdenum, and Araxa in Brazil, which is owned by a private company named CBMM, which also have Chinese stakeholders. Niobec also has Chinese owners. So all 3 niobium mines globally, they include Chinese stakeholders. So when you look at the niobium grades of these 2 Brazilian mines, Catalao has about niobium grades between 0.8% and 1.5%. And Araxa has even higher grades between 1.6 and 2.5% niobium. Araxa and also Catalao, they are clearly monsters, and they're very unique because most deposits globally, they have about grades between 0.3% and 0.7%. Niobec in Canada, they have average grades about 0.4%. And this is like the benchmark for Saville in its drilling and in any potential resource estimates which the company is working on in the future. So Saville recently drilled 1% niobium over 17 meters, and that was within an intercept of 0.8% niobium over an impressive length of 42 meters. And those are really excellent high-grade results over long intercepts. And the best about these results is that the mineralization starts right at surface on the Saville property. At the Niobium mine, you have overburden, and that's probably why they started to mine it underground and not by open pit. But I have a technical report here from 2011 from IAMGOLD, the former owner of the project, where they were looking into doing an open pit. And you can see that mineralization goes down almost vertically, very steeply dipping. The red here is inferred resources, yellow and green is measured in indicator resources. Yeah, and let's take a look at those resources. On the left, you can see measured and indicated with 45 million tons at 0.53% niobium and another 59 million tons at the same average grade. So that's about 105 million tons in underground resources. On the right, you can see the open pit option, which they were looking at. And that's 458 million tons of rock at 0.42% niobium and another 336 million tons at 0.37% niobium. That's about 800 million tons of rock, which is really a lot. And this resource, it includes about 3 million tons of pure niobium. And that's a lot. The whole world produces about 125,000 tons of pure niobium every year, and with a value of $5 billion. And with Niobium having about 3 million tons of niobium, which would be like 24 times 5 billion, so $120 billion worth of niobium in the Niobium mine. In 2014, IAMGOLD sold this Niobium project for $500 million to Markris Resources and Chinese stakeholders. Markris is a private company. So yeah, $500 million sounds like a bargain, doesn't it? So let's take a look at Saville here. In an earlier Rockstone report, I looked into the Niobium deposit. And take a look at this. This shows the Niobium deposit here in this graph and how it almost vertically goes down, and that the core is actually this pink rare earth deposit. And then to the right comes a barren dolomite zone, very narrow, in dark orange, and then in yellow comes the first niobium zone. And shortly thereafter, there's another niobium zone in orange. So when you take this picture and compare it with Saville and Commerce, you can see this here. The green is the rare earth zone of the Ashram deposit from Commerce, and the orange here is carbonatite host rock, which includes the niobium. And most of this orange zone is controlled by Saville. So it looks very similar to the Niobium deposit and its zoning pattern. And Saville hasn't done any deep drilling yet, but I bet that the niobium mineralization, it goes down steeply, possibly almost vertically, like being the case with niobium. So Saville could be sitting here on a huge niobium system, maybe similar in size to niobium, and it's 800 million tons of material with an open pit option, of course. So that would be decades of mine life, if not even hundreds of years or even more. So let's go back to the report. I have also looked at recent trends in the niobium market. CBMM, they recently bought a 20% stake in the startup company called Battery Streak. So CBMM is going into the battery space because niobium is also used in anodes. Toshiba has also been working to use niobium titanium oxide as a next generation anode material. And with the help of niobium, ultra fast charging of batteries in electric vehicles is becoming now a possible scenario where you can charge the car in less than 10 minutes with the help of niobium. And this also provides greater stability of the charging process and safety, of course, as well. And with this acquisition, CBMM plans to offer first products in 2023, and this may drive demand for niobium to higher levels and even price levels. Then I looked into the market fundamentals of the niobium market, and that is, it's really being used a lot in the automotive and transportation sector. Here you can see it in gray, and more than half goes into construction. And here it says, on the flip side, limited supply sources are hindering the growth of the market studies. So the market clearly needs more supply because we only have 3 mines globally, and it's never good to have just one supplier or 2 suppliers if you're an end user. I also looked into the key market trends and that the construction sector is dominating the market. Here we can see that the annual growth rate is about, it's even more than 5% per year forecasted until 2026. So niobium is really a strongly growing market. Then I also looked into tantalum. It's a very good conductor of heat and electricity, and it has a very high melting point. It's also corrosion resistant. Tantalum powder is used in electronic components, such as mainly in tantalum capacitors. And you have major end users for capacitors. They include like smartphones, pagers, computers, and also automotive electronics. And when you alloy tantalum with other metals, tantalum is also used as a super alloy, for example, in jet engines. The US is importing all of its tantalum needs. There has not been any domestic production since 1959. And last year in October, the United States, they prohibited the import of tantalum from China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia. So it's another great market for key industries going forward. Here you can see an article on fast markets where it was in May, but the tantalum price was really going on record highs because of logistic delays and also because demand was surging. And there was a quote here that buyers in China buy whatever quantity of tantalum, but no country seems to be able to ship it. That's a tantalum trader who said that. So back into the report, I also looked into the trends, some trends for the rare earths market, and that neodymium and praseodymium, they are the most important rare earths used in electric vehicles. And about 90% of all electric vehicles, they use rare earth permanent magnet motors. And each of those permanent magnet motor uses 0.7 kilogram of these 2 metals. The market, as you can see here, for rare earths, it's witnessing a great boom because of electric vehicles and also because of wind power, which you can see here. Everything is projected and forecasted to really take off over the next year. And that's a great sign for the rare earths market and for rare earths prices possibly too. Over the rest of the report, yeah, I quoted some other articles, and I also showed some charts and some figures on how important rare earths are to these industries. For example, here you can see that in a normal ICE, that's an internal combustion engine, they use 0.8 kilograms of rare earths. By comparison, in electric vehicles, they use 2.8 kilograms of rare earths, and that's almost 4 times more. So yeah, take a look at this report from Rockstone to find out more details on these super metals. They are being used right now and into the future to build our future. And it's happening right now, as you can see with the recent bills passed by President Biden. They're spending huge amounts of money, which is flowing into the commodities markets as well, of course. And that's great news for niobium and rare earths. And yeah, Saville and Commerce, I'm a big supporter of both companies, and I'm also a shareholder. And I wish you enjoy the presentations by Chris and Mike now. And yeah, take a look at rockstoneresearch.com. All the best.
Thank you, Stefan. That bridge is an indication of the future of niobium.
I'd just like to touch on the recent drill hole that we put out. So this is the Mallard area, which is where we drilled in 2019 as well. And we have returned the best results we've had to date. That includes historic drilling from Commerce in 08 and 2010. There is the 17 meters of over 1% or of 1%. And we had a high sample of 1.73 that blows a lot of the competition out of the water in our area. This is the mouse. This is one of the most exciting things that we have on the go. What drives junior exploration stock? It's discovery. We're sitting on the potential of a discovery. So right here is Marana. This pink spot is a magnetic high, and all these dots up here are boulders which we have sampled. These boulders are coming in between 1 and 6% with a high-grade boulder of over 16%. These die off on this mag high, which leads us to believe that this is where the highest grade niobium is going to come from on the property. It also comes with the other things such as phosphate, and we've got 8% phosphate. If we were in the south, we could build a resource on about 6% phosphate. These two slides show where we drilled on Marana, and we are patiently awaiting the results from this drill program. So the colors in the background are a few different magnetic backgrounds, but you can see we are right in the right zone of where we can see potential for high-grade niobium. These drill samples visually look very similar to those rock samples from the boulder train that die off right here. It is the most exciting time we've had for Saville and these niobium claims. Stefan touched on chassis. There is BAC, which is a British company. They believe that niobium is going to change electric vehicles in the chassis game, reducing weight by 18% and making the chassis significantly stronger at the same time, which increases the safety. They believe that they will be able to put this into commercial production in 2022. So there is only upside for niobium, which leads me to believe there is great upside for Saville. Just some of the photos from past exploration, and we will take it to questions.
All right, so thanks, Mike. We'll start with the chat question from Arnold. And if you do have any questions, just either put them in the chat or raise your hand and we'll unmute you. The first question here is, can someone please address the status of the Quebec funding of the road to the properties when time permits?
I would be happy to answer that question. I wish there was more of an update on the potential financing of the road in our area. I will speak to that in just a second, but let me point out, considering that the set of claims that hosts the niobium claim group that Saville is working on and where the ashram is, this is above the 60th parallel. And so we could be operational with an ice road, a seasonal ice road. And so an all-weather road is nice to talk about but it's not necessary for either company to advance the project into production. In terms of the current amount of activity in the area, which is generally on trend with what we call the Labrador Trough, there's been an increase of activity in that area, especially with Midland exploration. And then Midland has a strategic alliance with SOQUEM, which is essentially an arm of the Quebec government, and then also with the world's actual largest mining company, which is BHP Billiton. Yes, on paper, Glencore is listed as the world's largest mining company, but I can tell you, Glencore themselves don't think of themselves as a miner. BHP is a miner. And BHP and Midland are looking for a world-class nickel deposit right in the area, just around where the Ashram and the Saville claims are. And that would be something similar to Raglan, which is about 500 miles north of where the Ashram sits. So with the current increase of activity and the expression of interest by the Société de Planard in financing a road in the area over the last 9 years, I think there's a much increased political benefit to the government to come out and announce financing the road, which is certainly something that they have done at a minimum 2 times before, i.e. the 200-kilometer long road to the Stornoway Hall Road, which was also meant to be the road for Strataco, but of course the Quebec government pulled their mining license because uranium mining is not allowed in the southern part of Quebec. And then more 20 odd years ago, the Quebec government financed the road for Glencore's Raglan, which was owned by Xstrata at that time. And that road is about 165 kilometers long. So we're very optimistic that the government does come out with an announcement on the road.
Okay, great. And we did receive a question a few days ahead of the event today. So I'll just read. This one comes from Warren. How much demand is there for niobium? Is it being met now, and are the existing mines able to provide for it? I gather that the South American mines are large operations and supply can be increased from there.
I would be happy to take that one as well. I think the clearest answer to that question would be the interest expressed by these niobium majors in both our Blue River tantalum and niobium project, and then also in these niobium claims. The market is basically made up of 3 producers. I would suggest strongly that increased production is seen as attractive by the current 3 producers of niobium.
And I think it's important to point out that there's considerable value in the fact that these deposits are in Canada, in North America, and that gives different supply concerns to the global community.
All right. If anybody has any other questions, you can either put them in the chat or raise your hand. I can see you there, and I'll unmute you. I will let you know too, we've sent Stefan's Rockstone report out, but if you didn't receive it, we'll send it again with a recording of the event today. It'll also be posted on YouTube as well. I'll give it a minute or two.
Are you sleeping, David O'Brien?
All right, we did receive another one here from Arnold. What is next for Saville now that the drilling is done?
Well, although the drilling is done, we are still waiting on 4 holes to come back from Marana. That will allow us to make decisions for what's next. That being said, the 4 holes that we drilled in Marana may not be enough to fully test the Marana target. So if we get a hint that there is the high grade that we're expecting, we will put another drill program on Marana. But it's still going to be hard to leave Mallard alone completely. So most likely it would be a combo drill program between Mallard and Marana, but we will wait to make a more informed decision once those results are out.
All right, and then William, I see you've raised your hand there, so I'll let you unmute yourself. Go ahead and ask your question.
How will the supply chain infrastructure issue that the United States has been having affect you all being able to reach the actual manufacturers? So getting the raw material to the manufacturers, how will that be affected in what companies have you all secured already?
Well, that's a little further down the road, William. Thank you for your question. The Ashram project is the most advanced deposits that we are looking at today. We're probably, another 9 months before we finish the next required economic report. And after that, we will start the environmental social impact assessment and work on the bankable feasibility study. I mean, we have received interest from majors, manufacturers, industry players in the Ashram project, and we have received interest also in the niobium claims and in our Blue River tantalum and niobium project. But we don't have any agreements in place at this point in time. Those agreements would likely be based upon a negotiation which would, the economics, which would be the basis of those negotiations, are being worked on right now.
Maybe we can follow that question up from one from Mansour, very similar. The U.S. infrastructure says only USA materials to be used. How does this affect us? I'm assuming they're referring to what Stefan talked about, but maybe one of you can take that.
Well, I'm not, I haven't read the specific language in the infrastructure bill, but in a previous bill from the current administration, it made it abundantly clear that there is only one other country on planet Earth that is considered domestic in the eyes of the US government, and that is Canada. So very clearly, the United States sees Canadian resources as basically domestic, and in so much as Canadian mining companies, Canadian resource projects can be financed by the US government. So I would suggest that that the actual language being referenced here about USA materials only actually fundamentally includes Canadian resources.
All right, a couple more questions here. What is your perspective, this is from Christopher, what is your perspective on the project's social acceptability by local stakeholders?
Thank you, Christopher. I'd be happy to answer that question. We are certainly happy with the letter of intent that was signed between Commerce Resources and the Land Holding Corporation, the Niobium and then the Makivik Corporation, both representing the interests of the Inuit. We are certainly in contact with the Naskapi of Kawawachikamak, and we are hopeful that it may be possible for us to sign a letter of intent with the Naskapi as well. Ultimately, at this point in time, we were previously noted as being the largest percentage employer of Inuit in Nunavik, but we were happy to have our percentage, which was like 11 or 12% Inuit employees, to be bested by Glencore a couple of years ago, where they made a very significant drive to increase their Inuit employment at Raglan, which is now, or the last time I checked, was about 24%. So ultimately, we are very hopeful that we will be able to have the social license to operate in regards to the Inuit and the Naskapi.
Okay, another question here. Next funding round?
For Saville's case, we are looking to open a round of financing in the very near future. We have been in talks with a number of funds, and they were sort of waiting for the last 4 holes to come out before making commitments, and I typically open a round of financing once I have some form of interest. It helps drive other interests, so I'm expecting this to come in the next few weeks.
Okay, that's all we've received so far. If anybody has anything else, feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand.
There's Bob Raphael with his raised hand.
All right, I'll take a look here. Right here?
Yeah.
No, wait. Bob, did you have a question? Give him a chance there.
Bob, we can see your lips moving, but you're still muted.
Well, it's nice for a change than to shut up. But anyway, I wanted to ask you, you said you're doing financing in the near future, but in this fiscal year?
Yes, Bob, we will be opening a flow-through round as well as a hard round.
In December?
That's correct, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, and let's just see here. All right, from Denver, what would be the next catalyst for share price appreciation for both companies?
I would be happy to answer that. I think, as some people have talked about, being an elastic band being pulled back further and further and further. The current surge and appreciation of rare earth element prices is created such an odd situation right now. Everybody in the rare earth element sector hit their 52-week highs in Q1 of this year when rare earth element prices spiked up hard. The current level of prices are higher right now in Q4 than they were in Q1, but nobody, rare earth element major or junior, is benefiting as much from those higher prices as arguably they should, unless that is the company also has exposure to uranium. So for example, like Energy Fuels. In terms of niobium, I think Saville is very much primed for a significant share price appreciation, and arguably should have gotten that already from the fantastic results that Mike released a couple of weeks ago. And as Mike says, we're extremely excited about the next 4 drill holes and what those results may show.
That run of 1% over 17 meters, you could equate that to more than 7 grams per ton in a gold project. That would be per ton of material. Those are great numbers. It's just hard to get that out to the masses.
And as well, you know, the open pit potential of these niobium claims that Saville is working on has to be included in any kind of consideration of the opportunity here. We're not talking about, you know, deep mining. We're not talking about sinking a shaft. We're talking about mining from surface, open pit, with very high grade niobium.
And that also doesn't include the tantalum, the phosphate, or the fluorspar. So if you put it into equivalent, we would be significantly higher.
All right.
Oh, there's Bob again with his hand raised.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Just unmute yourself there, Bob.
Yeah, Chris, you said, hi, Chris. You said, I hope you're not underwater. You said open pit, but do you know how deep the niobium goes?
Sorry, we do not know how deep the niobium goes, although we, with our previous drilling in Mallard, we have left it open in all directions. That's north, east, south, west, and at depth. We have left those holes cased, so we don't have to go back and re-drill the same holes. We can just mobilize the drill onto that cased hole and start drilling from where we left off. The reason we drilled shorter holes was so that we could work our way to an inferred resource quicker, especially because if you look at Commerce and them drilling the carbonatites in the area, we've never got to the bottom. And some of those holes are down to, what are they, 3,000? What's your deepest hole in?
Oh, our deepest hole at the ashram is about 615 meters deep. Mineralization consistent from surface all the way down.
Thank you.
So these are all carbonatites. These are all igneous rock types, basically liquid lava that came up from somewhere extremely deep in the Earth's crust. How deep do they go? We don't know. But I mean, ultimately, all of the world's producers of niobium are carbonatite hosted, including Araxá, CBMM's property in Brazil. And then, over 80% of the world's rare earth elements also comes from carbonatite hosted sources. So if you find the right grades, and certainly Saville has the right grades, or the ashram has the right grades, then typically, if it's carbonatite hosted, you don't have to ask for tonnage. The tonnage is there.
All right, we're getting a couple more questions in here. And Arnold, thanks for noting that. Stefan did a great comparison with the potential depth at Saville. So again, we'll send out that report to everybody here. So from Fran, how does ashram niobium compare with BC? I'm not sure.
The difference is that Blue River is kind of a co-product situation. Economically, it would be slightly tantalum dominant, but really it's a mix of, on a per ton basis, a half pound of tantalum and approximately 4 pounds of niobium. So, a half pound of tantalum oxide would be worth in the kind of, $80, $90 range. And then 4 pounds of niobium is worth in the $80 to $100 range. And so it's really a co-product situation. In terms of the Saville claims, the niobium claim group, those ones are way higher grade. And so it would be a niobium primary. The ashram is a rare earth element primary with a fluorspar byproduct, but then also with a potential niobium byproduct. So they're all very unique systems.
Basically, what they're saying is we have the grocery store of critical elements. You need to be part of this. You need to buy some stock.
All right, and Kenneth Jones, we've got one from you as well. So what sampling stockpile has Saville?
We don't have a stockpile. We're just waiting for the results from the drilling that we did on Marana.
All right. Okay, so lots of questions. That seems to be it. Again, I'll give you a second or two to ask any. Oh, Fran, there you go. I've asked to unmute you there.
I would just like to respond that I have been holding my stock for many years now, and you have not produced.
Like, you mean produced like actual commodities for the market?
Yes.
Okay, well, in terms of that 10-year valley I mentioned, you can read lots of people's estimates that it takes 10 years for a mineral deposit to go from discovery to production. Arguably, that is highly optimistic considering the last 10 years we've just gone through. Yours truly, and basically the majority of the people at this table have been shareholders in Commerce for 22 years now, but we have just gone through the toughest 10 years. And so, if you look back 10 years ago and a few months, the venture exchange was trading at 2,600 points. Where's the venture today? Maybe 900 and change. As I say, the last 10 years have been extremely challenging, but this actually increases the opportunity for the right projects. And again, back to mineral exploration is not a mystery, it's a puzzle. And the puzzle pieces are there right now, where essentially in the last decade, no one has gone into new production of niobium, of tantalum, and there's only one new producer of rare earth elements, which is Lynas. So what I'm really trying to say is the opportunity for us here and now in November of 2021 is better than it has ever been.
Okay, so do you have one from Rainier? When do you expect the Marana assays to be released?
We don't like to sit on assays. We release them basically as soon as we get them and get through the process of drafting a news release. So I am excited, and we will get them out as soon as we can.
The other point I would say is to mention to everyone that there is an industry-wide backlog at the assay labs. And so the drill results that came out on November 1st, they went into the assay lab before the end of July. So you're looking at about an 11 or 12 week turnaround. So Mike drilled the holes on the Marana around what time?
I expected to have the results back by now, is the bottom line.
Right. But the backlog at the assay lab is also COVID related. Last year, basically nobody did any field work. The assay labs laid off a bunch of staff. This year, everybody that had the capital, Commerce, Saville, got in and did more drilling than because we had been prevented from drilling last year, which then created this backlog in terms of the lack of human resources at the assay lab. So as Mike said, we're very hopeful to have these assays back ASAP.
Okay, now Arnold, I know you possibly had a question for Zim2. You can either unmute yourself or just put it in the chat there.
Yeah, hi there, everyone. I know in my past experience working with worldwide equities, their closed-end mutual funds always traded at a discount. And I never quite understood why. And when I look at the emails that Zim2 sends out with their portfolio update, and I'm always reviewing them, and I think there's a great portfolio there. And I'm kind of curious as to why it trades at a discount, or what management's feelings are about why it trades at a discount relative to not only the assets that it has in the shares, but the potential that the warrants bring to the table as well.
I think what he's referring to is we do publish a weekly update on what our holdings are and what the value of those holdings are. And I think last Friday, Zim2's holdings would have added up to be about $1 per share, and and we're trading at 22 cents. When we first got into this game, one of my longtime shareholders came to me and said, "Dave, you know that these deals usually trade at a discount to their value, and that discount should be 25%. Well, he was not completely right, because we certainly trade at a steeper discount than that. However, that discount is actually where the opportunity is. It is giving you an opportunity to buy Zim2's stock at a considerable discount. Our overall or our mid and long-term plan is that we are going to continue to increase the value of Zim2's holdings to a point that we get taken out by some much larger fund. And we certainly have been around long enough that we will be able to extract the maximum value for that fund on a takeover bid. You look at some of our holdings now, Amarita, our deal from Spain, last week, its value itself was worth more than Zim2's whole market cap. We have 4 or 5 companies that are coming along in that kind of position. Aduro, our waste plastic to energy deal. It certainly has global implications. Our Zinc 8 deal, certainly the Saville Commerce combination. We've got new companies coming online all the time. We will drive this value for you. Thank you.
And does that dollar portfolio estimate include the warrants?
Yes.
It does. Great. All right, if there aren't any other questions, that concludes it. Of course, we have the recording available. We'll post it as soon as we can. We'll also send you the Rockstone report. If you can think of any other questions after the fact, feel free to email us or give us a call. We'll answer that. Otherwise, thanks for coming.
Thank you.